I think we're good now. Is this gonna work? There it is. Alrighty. So, um, guess let's kind of get started here. Today we're working on some modeling. It's been a while since I've posted a video, so you're gonna have to forgive me about sort of the structure of all this. Um, you know, it's just one of those things I need to work on a little bit. Um, so yeah, it's been a while since I've posted. Kind of had a motorcycle accident about a week ago, so I'm a little bit sore. Really not getting out much. So I'm just kind of taking it easy, working on the horizon. Um, I think the main thing right now we're working on is mapping. So, I've got pretty much everything almost mapped on this thing. It's one of those things. Well, on the main coach, as you can kind of see here, it's not all the parts, but it's just the main body of the coach. So, um, it'll just be me rambling on, doing some mapping, maybe some awkward silence in between, but for the most part, this is kind of what we're doing. And feel free, take an opportunity, leave a comment, ask questions about, if you've got training questions, modeling uh, you know, any questions like that. I'd be more than happy to try and answer them for you, try and walk you through it. Or if you just want to say hey, say hey. I mean, again, there's really no structure to this stream. It's just me trying to get back into it, give me something to talk about, something to do. So, thought why not, start streaming a little bit. So, yeah. Right now, I'm working on the bolts of the cross members here, or these like retainment frames. Um, and I think basically what I'm doing here is going through my head. No one's really going to be seeing a whole lot of this stuff here. So what I'm just going to simply do is give everything their own. Everything, all these bolts are pretty much going to share a UV coordinate. So makes it easier on, people who might want to reskin these coaches in the future when they're released. All that great stuff. Gosh, I hate this sometimes. Alright, there we go. So, it's just one of those things. Makes it a little bit easier on people. Makes it easier on me because I have to obviously skin everything for the first go around. Um, Also, we're trying to conserve space too on the model or on all of our stuff because obviously we have limited amount of space on the actual texture map. So by basically giving all of these things something to share. Oh my gosh, I hate this program so much. By giving them their own space to share, it just takes up less room, makes things kind of easier to deal with and we get closer to. Oh my gosh, come on. This thing is a absolute dunce when it comes to snaps. Like snaps when you're working on, god damn it, come on. Snaps when you're working on the actual modeling process is a lot better than this, but oh my goodness. But when it comes to snapping things in the program itself, it kind of likes to, be stupid. That is what it is. It's just part of the deal, I guess. You know. So, do I have these pins turned off? No, that didn't do it. Yeah, I don't know. Something something got janky with my settings. It happens a lot. Oh my goodness. So, anyways, kind of is what it is. That's what we're working on. Mapping is probably the most boring thing you could ever, step into, but it's a very crucial part of, mapping because this is what provides us with our texture maps. So, it's one of those things where it helps to know how to do it. So, if you, oh my goodness, here we go again. Every once in a while, you get one of these things that just doesn't line up, and then it just becomes really annoying. Again, the only reason I'm really doing this right now is because these are just simple bolts. They don't really require any crazy resolution. Um, so we can get away with letting them share a UV coordinate. So that's kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Um, anyways, back to my rambling point here. Mapping is super boring. It's super annoying, especially when nothing goes right for you. But it is an absolutely crucial thing that you do it a certain way. So, give me 1 second. Sorry about that. I don't really schedule streams very well, so we're gonna have to put up with the occasional interruption. Um, but anyways, crucial point, you know, being able to map stuff and have it come out decently okay is a very very important part of 3D modeling. But, you know, back on to what we're doing here is we're just gonna simply let all of these things all these bolts are just going to share a single UV coordinate because I'm lazy for one. I think that's probably the biggest answer to a lot of things. Um, come on. Come on. It's right there. Anywho, these just sorry, I can't talk today. Um, but when you're thinking about like texture mapping, one of the things you have to consider is, okay, what parts do you want to have high resolution textures and what parts can you get away with low resolution textures? So obviously the higher resolution stuff is going to be the fronts of the coaches, the sides of the coaches. These vents right here will definitely have kind of a high resolution texture to them because those are going to have grates on them that you want to look convincing. Um, Stuff that isn't really going to be seen as much, like the underside, like stuff like this, that can obviously have lower resolution textures. Um, Inside this part here, because it's just going to be shaded. Um, let's see. If we go to. Let's see here. I'll pull up this. So if we go up to this render and we were to zoom in on that piece, you can just see that it is going to be kind of hidden. It's going to be in a shaded region. So it's really not one of those super important pieces that needs a high resolution texture. The same thing, so with this control valve unit right here too as well, that is not going to have high resolution textures because it's just going to be black metal. There's not really much to these pieces that really needs to stick out a whole lot. And that goes for like all the underbody detail, although underbody stuff will have its own texture map, and that's just so I have more room for that way I have more room for higher quality textures on main parts of the coach car. So if I were to put everything onto just um, one map, that wouldn't be super great, super wonderful because of it would just take up a lot of space. So we get around that by putting different things onto different texture maps. And that's kind of what this is turning into. So we're taking all of kind of the main body parts of the coach and we'll give them their own texture map here, and that'll be all fine and dandy. And then what we'll do is we'll still leave stuff outside because there might be a couple more items that I'm able to fit onto this single map. I mean, it looks like a huge mess right now, and it really is, but a lot of this stuff will end up being scaled down because, again, like these pieces right here, they look really big, but they're going to be super small because they're these little notches in the side piece here. And right now I've just got everything laid out by parts. That way it's a little bit easier for me to find out where stuff is, and then I can go back through, again, rescale them and put the puzzle piece back together. A more complete map would look something like this. So this is for the coupler. I went back and I made my own coupler for the coach. And this is just kind of what a more final map looks like. So it'll have just all the parts will be scaled down a little more correctly, and it'll just overall look a little bit better. So that's that's just kind of the workflow right there. Nothing, nothing too crazy. And just so everyone also understands, I'm still trying to figure out mapping for myself. I mean, there's a right way to do it, and then there's a right way to do it. There's a lot of wrong ways to map stuff, but it's also not the wrong way to map stuff. It really depends on what kind of effect you're going for on your model and the finished product, of course. So that's always something to really consider when you're modeling stuff, is planning for it, because stuff will always come up, and then you just got to adjust. You got to learn multiple ways to do it, and then um, find out what the best way for your certain situation would be. So in this case, we just took like 1,000 bolts and just made them. We're giving them their own individual um, mapping coordinate right there, and we'll actually just set it over there because they go with that stuff there. So that's kind of the quote unquote bigger picture there. This is again extremely boring stuff, but if you stick through it, I hope you can learn something. A lot of people are always intimidated by 3D modeling, and I at one point was intimidated by 3D modeling, and I think it's safe to say I'm still intimidated about 3D modeling, because it's a lot. There's a lot of stuff to take in. There's a lot of stuff that you can really do. Oh, that's pretty cool. So, I mean, like plugins. I've got the whatever plugin this is that'll just kind of help me out on certain items, you know. So I mean, probably one thing I can show you with this is really good. Is I can take this and I can, wait, nope. I can take one edge and we'll just align it like that, and we'll do the same thing over here. And then we can take this and just simply move it over. So now it takes up a little less space, and this is kind of what you really want out of your stuff. You want things to be more or less aligned, because you want it to take up as little space as possible. Also, things that are kind of like tilted on their side or their edge tend to cause problems. So to have something that can like line stuff up pretty well, I mean, like, that's just one of the many things. This stuff is just being really dumb. But find an edge and just, give it some sort of common denominator right there. Whatever you want to call it. I don't even remember what this stuff is for. I think this is just inner garbage parts that aren't really going to be seen, so I can just make them low resolution. That's kind of the same thing that's happening right here. This is just stuff that people aren't really going to see. These are the insides of the doors. I'm going to have these be a little bit smaller than the doors on the side that are actually shown more often. But I don't want them to be too small either, because there might be some interior view or something. I don't really know yet. Still working through this. Still figuring stuff out. So, anyways, back to the whole, 3D modeling is really what is it? 3D modeling is intimidating, and it really is. You know, but once you start getting the hang of it, once you have something to guide you along and help you kind of find instances on how to work things and how to do things, it really does become a lot easier to figure out. So, anyways, in that in that sense, it's kind of like it it works out. And again, forgive me about my rambling. I don't really have a script at all to go off of. I really don't have anything to really make this super duper interesting just because it's the nature of the beast. We're working on mapping. So you're not going to really see a whole bunch of stuff come together until we start texturing and um, baking everything on, doing our AO baking. So, anywho, this is just kind of we're trying to work on right now. Get the boring shit out of the way, because when it comes down to it, it's really the worst. Makes me want to cry all the time. My modeling ventures, it started out with me. I think I was definitely gimme pigging jointed rail to make a custom cab for something, and they said, "Well, here's a copy of 3ds Max." And I opened that thing up and I made a box, and then I was like, I don't know what to do with this box. I don't know how to figure anything out. And then, go down the line, I really got into texturing and reskinning stuff and learning how to use Photoshop and all that jazz. And it still kind of felt like I really want to do. I really still want to make my own things. I want to make cool stuff. So it kind of just got to a point where I said, I'm gonna learn 3D modeling. I'm involved with a group called the Erecting Hall, and a lot of the guys on there started teaching me basically everything that I'm figuring out today. Plus, there's a couple tutorials online that really do help you out. They really give you kind of a basis of, different processes. You can look up videos on how to model a car, how to model a train. There's so many things out there that are helpful. The unfortunate thing that I've noticed about the 3ds Max community, and I'm saying 3ds Max specifically because that's the program that I favor. It's the one that I know very well. And where is this? Rotate 90 degrees. That's not what I wanted. Anyways, there's a lot of ways to do something, and a lot of people try and overcomplicate a lot of stuff too, which then makes finding the information you need a lot more difficult. Um, so keep that in mind. Try and do yourself a favor. Try and keep things simple. Try and keep things easy. Keep it simple, stupid. I wish someone had taught me that a long time ago with this program. But really, it's just something. It's something you learn. It's something that just so stupid sometimes. This program. See, this is one of those times where I'm like, what's going on here? I don't know why this edge doesn't want to connect with this edge like it's supposed to, which is super dumb. See, like it's doing it with this one too. This program is probably the biggest pain in my butt, but I love it. I love this program. Not really. Sometimes I just want to shoot this program into Kingdom Come. But, you know, can't do that. Anyways, it's just a big part of this whole deal. You learn you learn some of the tendencies with the program, and you're able to just adjust from there. Find out why something's not working right. So like that one worked out great. So why don't you work out great? There we go. So I don't get it. Even if I put them right up next to each other and do the stitch, it doesn't want to stitch them together. So it's just one of those things. Really do be like that. It's also not the end of the world either, you know. We work with it, get around it. So I'm already kind of looking ahead at what these parts are and what they're gonna do for me. And all I'm gonna do is just kind of optimize their positioning a little bit. And then these will actually be scaled down a lot just because of the inside. The inside of these pieces. So there's that. And then we're getting into all of this junk here, which I mean it's one of those things where you got to decide what's really important, what do you really need to do. So I like to start with flatten map just because that'll give me a better idea of kind of where stuff goes or what's what. And then it's just one of those moments where you just start picking stuff away. So that wants that to be attached to all that stuff. So I'm just gonna just put all this stuff kind of generally close together, I guess. Like this. guesstimate it on the resize. I mean, like, when it comes down to it, it really doesn't matter. Let's see here. So like if I show this one, this is from a previous bake that I've done. No, it's not. That's the wrong one. This is from a previous bake that I've done on the coach. And I'll admit I was still messing around with a couple of the render settings, so it's not as crisp as it really should be, or as it will be when I'm done, but it kind of gives you a general idea of what you're looking at um, when you scale stuff down or having it not exactly line up 100%, because that's part of it. You're not going to be able to get these maps to line up 100%. You're going to need a lot of extra, what are they called? Plugins for 3DS, and it's just one of those things. Oh, this is like the old version of the Horizon. I can tell because of right here, this little notch. It's not like that anymore. So, anyways, excuse me, I'm a little bit tired. So, I mean, come on. It doesn't really need to be 100% lined up. Try and get it as close as you can. That's all anyone can really hope and ask for. And again, all we're doing here is just lining stuff up as close as we can get it. And we'll definitely be adjusting a lot of this stuff too, just because it's you know, got to put the puzzle together. It's kind of a big portion of this. So then we're left with all this great jazz. So here's what we'll do. We'll select all of these similar looking pieces there. Pack custom. Oh no. Oh no. Give it a second. Okay. Just trying to see, is it gonna rescale? No, it's not gonna do that. Pack together. Okay. So again, 3ds Max. Super thinks it's smarter than what it really is. A lot of words I want to use, but gonna try and keep it a little bit G-rated. So these are these back ends of these pieces. So what we can actually do, we'll just take that and we'll just stick it there for now. It's just going through all of this stuff here. It's a very oddly shaped piece. It's got all sorts of crazy angles on it that just gotta work around. Take all of these here. Actually, what we'll do is we'll select these all together like that. Flatten the map like that. Actually, I want to see. That's just another thing. Is sometimes you gotta try things out to see how it works. So I'll try a box map on each of these individual pieces. Right there. That is not where that connects to. It connects to that side right there. And then that basically goes to that. So then I'm gonna leave these two pieces separate. Um, just because I really don't want to mess with a whole bunch of stuff right now. Take a couple shortcuts, you know. I also don't need to overcomplicate this part of it. What I can actually do here, because this is the front facing part of this, so this will make a little more sense to do it like this then. So I'll take it, we'll set it to Y, and then we'll do a quick planer, just like that. That looks a lot better, just to do it that way. Oh, things kind of, you know, make a little bit of sense when where they line up and all that jazz. Quick planer, bada bing, bada boom, just like that. And then I'm just looking at the edges where to line everything up, because that'll line up roughly about there. And then I'll just move that down like that there. And then you can see now that these pieces will line up like they should instead of looking off, and I should have thought about that in the beginning. In fact, I should have actually probably gone back and overhauled these parts, but also it wasn't a nagging problem. It wasn't something that was necessary to damn it. It wasn't something that was necessary to go and actually overhaul. It was just one of those things that probably would have helped a little bit if I made it one piece. That's kind of another thing I've learned after overhauling a lot of the parts on this coach, is it helps to make everything one piece. So the coupler model that I made, everything is pretty much one piece on that. And that actually kind of streamlined the mapping for me. Made it a whole lot easier for me to work with. Got it done quicker too. Alright, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do this. Yeah, that'll work out better for my selection. And then select that. And then just move it down. So, if you can make everything one piece, that's awesome. That's really good. Because then you don't end up with weird looking seams like this. But considering that this was made a long time ago, it was just one of those things that didn't really learn to do it right the first time. So, but I also don't need to go back and fix it. Just, there's not really a point in doing that. then I think it's all these pieces right here. These are the back facing. So you know what? We'll just take those. Boom. That's what we really want. Yes, Big Mind Creator, saxophone. Yes, this is going to be 4 trains. Still a lot of planning to go with this. Still trying to figure out, where exactly I want the coach car to be in terms of, you know, whatever's going on. But I do really plan on this being for trains. Not just don't know when I'll have it done and when I'll release it. I know there's probably a lot of people who, or there's people out there who probably asking about the possibility of reskin kits for this too. That's one of those things I've been hesitant on. I was talking to a few people about it because I was like, as a reskinner myself, yes, after years I return. After many years, it's been what, 5 years or something. So it is what it is, though. But anyways, one of the things that I was kind of considering, because I've always liked reskinning things. There's just kind of this satisfaction of, hey, I made something, it's my own. The kind of satisfaction you would also get with modeling. I'm gonna ask this once and hope no one else asks. Okay, so like I'm saying, so I'm sort of talking about this right now. Um, this the Horizon Coach car in its final kind of deal. I want it to be publicly released. That's the end goal for this. I'd like for this to get out for people to use on their routes, to enjoy it, to have just some good Amtrak content or whatever. Um, but going back to what I was talking about or rambling on about is kind of the whole reskin kits. So being able to customize stuff is one of those. It's a really fun thing. there's kind of a satisfaction of getting to make something your own, and that's a whole lot of fun. People have fictional railroads and all that. So I've always run into this with a lot of other content where they either have a reskin kit or you can get away with a couple skinning tricks that allow you to actually reskin the the model. But in a lot of cases, that's very difficult to do, especially if you're just learning. So reskin kits help out tremendously with this. Um, but there's kind of this residing issue where if I were to make a reskin kit for this, how do you go about making sure it's that has been kind of in consideration, making it payware, but also I'm trying to justify it. We'll see where it goes. I mean, not not really sure. Not really sure about any of those logistics yet. I mean, it just might be better for me to do freeware. But anyways, there's kind of this residing issue where when people reskin stuff, not everyone is a skilled skinner or texture artist, and that's perfectly okay. You have to start somewhere, you have to learn. But a lot of the times whenever I see a lot of stuff on like the DLS or on just other people's Wix websites, websites like that, um, there's kind of this. Basically, the issue I'm trying to get on to is quality control. I mean, obviously, having good quality content is super important and whatnot. But and again, also making things kind of accessible. But I do want to have a little bit of control of what happens with my coach car. So I know there's a lot of good ideas for people to skin stuff, and one of the things that I've kind of been considering is, hey, if you use the reskin kit and you want to publicly release your skin or your texture, then send it through me. I'll either say yay or nay on that and host it on host it with the other, like the actual models themselves, rather than having people just post stuff willy nilly. Because again, a big part of it for me is just kind of quality control and also making sure that I have a little bit of say as to what happens with my model. I know there's a lot of people out there who are differently opinionated about that. I know there's some freeware creators who say, "Nah, hey, my model is your model. Do what you want with it. Just pass it by me, and I'll say yes or no." Other people are very strict about that, where they don't give any permissions at all. Um, and that's something that is kind of to each their own. But I'm kind of on the realm where I do really want to have some sort of quality control over over reskins that are posted using my model when that happens. So this this underlying issue goes into play with, say, making this payware or not, um, and just whether or not I make a reskin kit together altogether. Because again, it's just one of those things where you're like, well, I want it to be accessible to people. I want people to be able to use it and enjoy it as they want to. Because again, people maybe have some great idea for a fictional um, I appreciate the offer there, but again, there's a lot of things that are going into play. There's a lot of things that have to get done first. I mean, one of the bigger ones is mapping. So, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, we still have so much more to do on the coach. There's still a lot more that that needs to happen. But again, going back to that again, what I call an underlying issue with everything is, you know, is it one of those things where we don't do anything altogether? I mean, it really depends, and honestly, we got plenty of time to make final decisions. The coach has been in works and for a long time now, as you probably know. I've been working on this for about 5 years, and I've now had a great opportunity to continue working on it. So it's really nice to be able to do that. We'll just kind of see what happens. Um, One of the things with making, cab and coach cars and shoreliner or the Comet fleet coaches too is that might involve a very large model overhaul, especially for specific railroads. And I made that kind of easy enough for me to do if I wanted to do that. But for instance, the Horizon coach, these bolsters, or I don't know, would you call them bolsters? These retention frames that kind of keep everything in line. I'd have to definitely change those up because they're different on every coach. I mean, say we go to a shoreliner cab car and take a look at what all that looks like. So I mean, already I can see a couple things that I definitely have to I'd probably have to overhaul. I mean, again, every railroad has very specific things to them. I'd definitely probably have to change those bolsters because they also have the um, inside frame bogies rather than the bogies that come with the Horizon coach. So you can kind of see these bolsters are different. The overall coach body isn't too much different than the actual Horizon, but yeah. Yeah, an opportunity like this shouldn't go untouched, and you're absolutely right about that. Um, I mean, one of the things that I'd like to think about with all this too is kind of the future after the Horizon coach is I hope that um, I can create some high quality commuter content for trains because that's something that is sorely lacking. I.e., I mean, we look at some of these pictures here. Back in the day, these models would have been awesome, and for what they are and what they represent, they are awesome models. I'm not discrediting the modeler on that, but by, today's standards and just kind of what the possibilities are. I mean, for instance, this person who made this just simply textured the stairs on when now it's common to model them on. So, yeah. So it's just like one of those things that just right now in the trains community, we have a lot of stuff going on in terms of, um, locomotives are being heavily modeled, they're being heavily worked on, and they're really cool. I like this. This is pretty cool. Um, Oh, these are neat. Sorry, I'm getting carried away now. I'm looking at all this other stuff. But um, where was I? So, anyways, there's a lot of models that are being heavily like looked on and worked on. But you think about commuter stuff and all that. A lot of people don't. A lot of people haven't really touched on that a lot. So it'll be good to start that trend, or hopefully get a trend going on some good quality commuter content. I know a few people are working on some stuff, um, but the big question for me, and it blows back onto me too, is when is it gonna get done? So I know a guy just released a decent Amfleet coach car for Trains 2019, but other than that, um, let me see if I can catch up with you here. Nah, it's just part of it. You're not being too much of a distraction. So, a lot of people do have this question of where do I start? And I kind of touched this earlier on in the stream. I started modeling. Well, my modeling adventures basically started with me gimme pigging jointed rail one time to make custom cabs for something, and they said, "Hey, here's 3ds Max, and this is what we use to model. Have at it." And I was like, "All right, I'll look at that." Made a box, and I was like, I don't even know what to do after that. So then after a while, I started deciding like, hey, I want a 3D model. So I started learning using 3ds Max because it just seemed to be one of the easier ones for me to do. Um, and it's just one of those things that sparked off, and you just got to look at tutorials. So find a program that works for you. Look at 3ds Max. Look at Maya, I think, is one of them that people use. Look at Blender. That's a free one. So you know don't sell yourself short. It takes time. Start out by making a box. That's the first thing you should really do. Make a cylinder, see how everything works, and then look up tutorials. I mean, there's a lot of specific tutorials online, especially for like 3ds Max. You look up how to make a train, and there are like 5 tutorials on there that show you how to make a train. So they're really cool, really good stuff. Yeah, again, knowing where to start with a box. I've seen some of the stuff from Petrama and Ryan's trains, and I think Ryan he's really working on his Metra stuff. That's, I think, coming close. But again, I don't speak for these people. I see what I see online. So I don't know about Petrama very much, but I do know Ryan is he is working on his Metra content. It looks really good. So him and I had a chat one time too about polygons, because you can imagine this is a very hefty model that I'm working on. Other models probably aren't going to be this intense, but I wanted to do the Horizon some justice. There's not a lot of good comic car models on there, so platinum mapping. Oh jeez, this is gonna be a fucking mess. We'll see. Do I even want to bother with this? This just looks like one of those parts where I just really don't want to mess with it. but I probably should anyways. So, but like I said, it takes time. It takes time and patience. You know, I can't tell you how many times 3DS Max has crashed on me and I've lost stuff or it's just become frustrating, and times like that you sometimes you need to take a break. It is what it is. Is what it is. Actually, we'll align it with this. Yeah, like that. That looks good. And then we'll just go place it up there. So I'm kind of the opposite. If I'm more involved with online stuff than real trains. It's just always been in my experience that things are just some of the train community is just really toxic and just stopped being worth it to me to really deal with it. So that's one of those things. Let's see, I'm curious, did that even fix my issue? No, it didn't. So now you're gonna worry about it. It'll be fine. Oh damn. Oh no. Of course you gotta have that select. So I think one of the things that I'm really excited for with this is getting the mapping done to a point where I can start texturing this. I'm getting really antsy about that. I really want to see this all what this all come to, how it'll look when I'm done with it. So that's kind of one of the more exciting things I'm looking forward to with this. So we will see. actually if this is going to be a good idea to model it like this. Or to map it like this. One of the issues that happens when you go to map stuff, and you can kind of see how these squares, how the checkerboard pattern isn't quite straight, and that's because of how this is all tilted. I'm actually wondering if it would be a better idea for me. Oh, we'll try this. Rotate it. No, that's not gonna do it. When it's rotated like this on your actual texture map, that those are pixels that kind of have the zigzag jaggedness to them because reasons. But you know, we'll see. We'll see if there's a better way of doing this then. Because I kind of want something more like this, but also these aren't going to have anything super important on them. So we should be able to actually get away with it. Not sure. Try box map it. Damn, that did that. Yeah, I think this might be the better way of doing it then. So we'll take that. It's all experimentation. You find what works and what doesn't work. And then go from there. So again, I'm gonna warn you ahead of time, and I've been kind of saying this too again throughout the stream, is this process of 3D or mapping is probably the most boring yet tedious kind of items to do, and one of the most important items. So I apologize in advance if y'all are getting bored out of your minds watching this, but this is kind of, it's one of the more important parts of modeling, because of, again, textures are what I at least what I argue make or break a model. I've seen many people. There's a guy on the forums. I think he's from Sweden. His name is Eric, and he does. Sorry, I'm tired. He does a lot of texture work on dated models. You know, adds some shading to them, adds some really nice grit and weathering, and some models like the OG Horizon model that, like, I don't even remember who made them. Like, was it Buzz Ben? Wasn't me. But the OG Horizon models, or the well, sorry, so the models that I've done my retexture on and released on the erecting hall. Um, yeah, well, have fun listening to me ramble on. But anyways, um, so he takes these dated models that people have made, long time ago, and he's done just such incredible texture work to them that you can't tell that they were dated models. I mean, it looks like, oh, this is brand new. This is something that's used with or made with modern everything kind of thing. So, really when it comes down to it, textures make or break your model. So, it really helps to get the mapping done right, or, close to right. Again, sometimes you just can't get around certain things, and it is what it is. So, it's just one of those interesting things to consider, to think about. So, that's another big thing I'm on the whole. If I do reskin kits, really wanna watch quality control, because you really, when you model something, you spend all the time on it. You want the best to represent it. And again, there's some guys who just make a lot of freeware stuff for people, and they're perfectly okay with, you know, whatever being released, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, again, it's up to the original creator, but a sign of life in the realm of content creation. Let me tell you, in my experience of being a content creator in trains, the community and the people who make the game, they really don't help the situation. I mean, started becoming like there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of flame wars going on, and it's definitely subsided in the last years that I've been gone, which is a nice thing to come back to. But I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that's happened, and it's just kind of been, well, a lot of it's also really been like the developers sticking the middle finger to the content creators and just making everything, you know, more difficult on us to release stuff or to make, decent quality content. There's a lot of limitations that we have to deal with. Um, so, it's not a surprise that we're witnessing a decline in content creation. Also, with the Trains franchise and the direction that they continually go to, I mean, with Trains: A New Era, at first it was just Trains 2012 with with a new shader pack on it, or what it was. With a new game engine, and that really, to me, is like, well, so we're getting less routes, less content from the game, and or less built-in stuff for basically Trains 2012 with a new game engine that, to be honest, was a dated game engine. It just wasn't. There's so much better out there that they could have utilized. So now, so the irony of the situation, too, of them kind of making things a little bit difficult on content creators, is their reliance on third-party content creators. You know, by reducing the amount of built-in content in the game, they essentially turn it around to people who are making content on the DLS, and people like Jointed Rail and so forth. And it just becomes one of those situations where it's like you probably want to try and make it easier on your content creators. And another issue that comes into play is optimization. There's so much content out there um, that's made so much differently. So, I mean, one of the biggest examples is, say, SketchUp. SketchUp loves to make polygons. So the Horizon Coach right now sitting at 68,717 polys essentially would be triple or even quadruple that if I made it in SketchUp. And that's kind of just the nature of the beast. So people make stuff in SketchUp because that's what they know how to do, and they release something on the DLS, and we go into a route that utilizes that, say it's a scenery asset. So we run into this issue where you have a route that utilizes that asset, plus it's got to be able to handle, on top of that, all of the all the locomotives that you're going to be using to operate, all the coach and freight cars, and all that kind of stuff. And it really, again, limits what people can do on their models. So I'm having to take into account other people's stuff that they've made for the game on top of my own, which kind of runs into an issue because there's not really there's not necessarily a set way of doing things. And you've got other games where in what is it, in Train Simulator, like Railworks, they have a tutorial up that basically sets guidelines for content creation that um, tries to make it uniform or somewhat uniform in the sense that it's a little bit more consistent with their content creation. That way things are optimized a lot differently and a lot better than what you would get, say, in trains. So there's a lot of little things that go into play. Yeah, payware content's one of those things that's like, how many of these things? There's 4 on each. So, with, yeah, that's another issue, is how N3V tries and takes ownership of other people's stuff and then making it so you really can't customize anything in the game. And it's an unfortunate part of the whole process. But in terms of payware content creators actually doing it themselves, and or say, not allowing reskins on certain items and whatnot, there's a little bit of sense to that, because I go back to, on a lot of your stuff, you only want the best representing what you do. And then you also don't want people getting too excited and then sending out your model for people who didn't pay for it. So I mean, there's like a lot of little things that go into play there with different content creators. Um, and that's another issue that that a lot of content creators have noticed in the last couple of years, especially by the time I kind of went on hiatus, is that there's just a general lack of respect for people making content. And that really went into play with, I mean, I've noticed it on my YouTube channel. I got a lot of people who are asking me for stuff, who think they know the rules, who think they know what they're, you know, everything that goes into play with content creation and releasing stuff. I've had people say it's okay to release just the skin and not the locomotive. And that I've actually had discussions with content creators about that. I've had discussions where I have asked them and said, "Look, is this okay for me to do, or would you not want that to happen?" And they say that the original textures that are used on the locomotive, that are used to reskin a locomotive, are part of the model. And I guess that does make sense, because everything that I've done to this so far, like the mapping coordinates, unwrapping everything, getting everything, looking decent now, this is all technically still part of the model. And there's other technicalities that go into that argument, but bottom line is the original creator said, "No, you can't do this." And there's been just a tremendous lack of respect for that, where people have said, to hell with that, I make the rules. And there's people who are posting content they shouldn't be posting on their websites, their little Wix websites, and it's a throat punch to content creators. We put in all this effort, and what are we getting from it? Is a bunch of little bratty kids having a field day, posting all of our hard work to whatever. So that's kind of been a general kind of thing I've ran into. And then also just browsing YouTube, I run into all of these links that people have posted, and it's like right away you know something fishy's going on. So I don't get it. I don't understand it, but no, I'm not in the business of payware. But again, it's one of those things that we got to understand is they've got their reasons. And again, this really goes back on my whole little controversy with, I I want the best to represent my model. I don't want someone to make a reskin of it and it's low quality everything that's used on it, where they literally just paint over the whole thing and don't even try and texture it. And then that's what's out there representing the model that I've worked on. So I think that goes into a big play of it. There's a lot of things that go into content creation that I don't I don't know a whole lot about even myself. It's like I said, I've been on a 5-year hiatus. I'm making my model the way I want to make it, and I plan on it's like I plan on releasing it, but I'm gonna have some rules to my release. That way, again, it's my model. Been working hard on it, so it's one of those things. But going back on all that, There's a lot of reasons there's been a decline in content creators making content, and it's unfortunate, but I do think things will improve over time. Things will get better. Everything will be alright. But another thing to keep in mind too with, like jointed rail, is they've been around for a long time. They know how the system works. They know what they're doing. So I just kind of, those are affairs I try and stay out of though. Because again, I don't speak for those people. I don't know. Son of a gun. This is one of those things where I'm like, are these parts gonna be worth it to do anything to now? We'll see. Like I said, this might have been one of those parts where it would have been better for me to overhaul it, but also I really just, I don't know. Oh wait, that's already done then. Okay, so I think this is just gonna be one of those things that I'm gonna quote unquote just half-ass it. Because these parts aren't really gonna matter in the grand scheme of things because they're small little. There's small parts that aren't really gonna be seen as much, so kind of get away with a little bit of more, and they're just gonna be painted black. Although I do want what do I want to do? See if I can find it. Horizons. Oh yeah. Old Horizon. I'm try and find the one of my old maps that I made on this. I wonder if it's actually in here. Cause there's a way I've had this done. I don't remember it, and it might have just been easier for me to kind of do it close to how I used to. Oh man. Unwrap UVW. Oh yeah. Jeez. Yeah. This map's a mess. Hopefully we do its justice then. Yes, I am Eastern Orthodox. So, That's awesome. Yeah, I've been, what is it? I've been growing up Orthodox. So, do a lot of church stuff. Well, so for us, our divine liturgies have not been, they've not necessarily been suspended, but we've been allowed we've been allowed by our bishops to live stream the services. So I've actually been in charge of live streaming our church services in my church. So been taking care of that, getting through Lent and everything. That was an emotional time, but the family came together and we did everything that we could. So, and then new directives have come out that we're gonna be able to go back to the smaller congregation, still being spread apart and, um, taking obvious safety measures, but, you know, being able to relax a little bit is gonna be nice, and we'll have to just see what, you know, ends up happening here in the future. See if things actually do remain that way, or if we gotta go back to the whole let's see, did I get all these? There should be 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Got them all. So, this process definitely takes the longest. Definitely, definitely the most boring process too. But it's gotta get done. Otherwise, nothing else is gonna get done. Wish we had more to show on this. One thing I'll have to consider doing at some point is live streaming some of the work on. Okay, I'm missing some stuff right now. Where did that all go? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, there it is. It's hidden. vertical. I'll tell you. Over the weekend last week, got into a motorcycle wreck. Well, I low-sided. Nothing, nothing too major. Bike will be repairable. Um, I walked away with extremely, extremely minor, injuries. I didn't. I don't even think I got bruised. No, definitely got bruised. I didn't get cut or anything. Couple scrapes on the knees, but wasn't even enough to really draw any blood. They were just sore, and other than that, I did I did manage to get stopped by a ditch though, so my back has definitely felt better, but overall everything's starting to feel a lot better. I can sit easier now, and I'm just sore. That's all. I'll have to see about going into work, but flatten out. Let's try this again. Alrighty. So I think that'll be good enough to then just put all that stuff, cause all this is just edges, not really stuff that'll be seen. Don't crash on me, 3DS. Come on. Okay, good, good, good. Oh man. Oh boy. Oh boy. Please no. Please no crash. Okay, good. We no crash. Holy crap. We're just gonna save real quick. Nah. That scared the crap out of me. So I'm just getting these things mapped out, stitched together, and then what I'm doing is, because I really don't want these to be all wonky, not only does that take up space, but that really creates some weird things that could happen with your with the textures. So what I'm doing is I'm straightening it all out, the align vertically tool there, but before I really finish that off, I'm finish gonna finish these, getting them stitched together. I'm not even sure why it does it like this. I mean, you'd think this program be smart enough to realize that, oh, hey, these are straight edges, so that's how they should pop out. So, I don't really know. That is some insight I wish I had going into this. does that for that. And then that leaves this stuff, which I think if most, if not all of it, is just the edging there. Wireframe over. Alrighty, so I think that about wraps it up. Except for these, I don't know, what are these? What am I looking at here? It's something, and I have no idea what it is. Oh, that's what it is. Okay. Know exactly what that shit is. Okay. It's basically this crap. Okay, anyways. I think that pretty much about wraps up the stream. Did a lot of mapping, got a lot of work done. I think the next step for all of this is just going to be putting the puzzle together, and then seeing what I got room for coming up. So, anyways, we'll go ahead, collapse that, unhide all. Yeah. Alrighty, so we got something good going there. Go ahead. Connect that. And I'll give you a sneak peek at something I've been working on. Since y'all stayed around this long. Ay, ay, ay. Ready to eat and then go to bed. Son of a biscuit. Working on this bad boy. Been saying I've been wanting to do some commuter content. So been working all this stuff out here on one of those Bombardier bi-level coaches and cab cars. So we'll see how this project goes. Keep an eye out for it. I think it looks pretty decent so far. What am I working on? I think I'm working on the back of this coach now, so kind of a neat thing. Well, actually, I'm working on the side. Gonna do the cuts um, for the doors. But that's not what we're working on today. Today was Horizon Day. Anywho, like I said, that about wraps it up for tonight's stream. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope to see you around on the next one, whenever that may be. And, hope I can show you guys some pretty cool things. If you got questions, leave it in the comment box below. Then, yeah. I think that's really about it. Now I'm just looking at pictures of trains, so. Anywho. I'll see you later, folks.